And what's going on, guys? Kale here, coming at you with another video. For those new to the channel, I am an endgame player with 3 accounts, kind of at the 4+ year mark, 3+, and then 2+. Today's video is going to be very alliance-centric, and I do apologize for the lighting, just trying to get this figured out real quick. So currently recording at a hotel, so apologize for the wacky lighting and the weird background behind me. But anyway, this video is going to be kind of describing that transition from Doom 1 into Doom 2, and kind of what you should be working on as far as to make the transition as easy as possible. So when you are talking about Doom 2, we'll slide on over here, and the requirements for Doom 2 are actually, for the most part, pretty simple. You go in, and the only thing that it requires is that you have blue ISO level 1, and for the sake of simplicity, as I've kind of been calling it, I will refer to it as blue 1. Blue ISOs goes up to 3 levels currently, even though there is 5 levels in theory. However, the 4th and 5th level of blue ISO is not really in the game yet. So, for all intents and purposes, you can go as high as blue 3, but you only need blue 1 to go into these nodes. Scopely calls it ISO 8 Tier 2 Level 1. That is a mouthful, and that is not what we're about here. So, for sense of simplicity, we're going to call it Blue 1. And the obvious benefits to doing Doom 2 at the 60% mark is, first and foremost, obviously, you are getting these teal orb fragments. And by hitting 60%, you hit 7k worth of these. So basically, every 2 days, you are able to open 7 of these orbs. It is RNG dependent, so, what you get out of these orbs really just kind of depends, but it will be teal gear, and teal gear is probably the biggest bottleneck in the game currently with Dark Dimension 5, and just as far as the scarcest resource in the game. The second benefit to Doom 2 is these blue ISO credits. These are used to open up those blue ISO orbs, and as you can see here, I'm currently on Kale and my main account basically, and you get to the point where eventually you have an excess of these. Initially, there is a big bottleneck with the blue ions, and we'll talk about that in just a moment, but eventually you get to the point where you do have a large surplus of these. You look at that here, and that is a comma over here, so this is 268,750 of these ISO credits. Divide that into 2, and that's how many orbs I can open. So that's a big benefit of doing the Doom 2. So with our, again, this is going to be very alliance specific, but with our newer players, the benefit to doing Doom 2 versus Doom 1 is we can get y'all to the point where you'll have more blue ISOs available, and you'll be able to raid just a little bit faster. So, the other thing I wanted to talk about too is the Doom 1 content. We have kind of mentioned possibly running Doom 1, both 1.0 and then 1.1 specifically for these first-time rewards. Now you get 240 T4 materials, you get 20,000 of these orange elite orbs, which, that's okay. You get 10,000 of the gold orbs, so 5 gold orbs, and you get 18k in the blue ISO credits. Honestly, as far as these first-time rewards go, they're not bad. Mainly, the main benefit to this would be the T4s and I guess kind of the blue ions. But when you look at that, that's basically 1 day of a raid, basically. So really, the only reason you'd be doing this would be for the T4s. We've talked about doing it, and we do intend to. But the other thing I want to also kind of clarify is with Doom 1, there are some ISO 8 requirements with this as well. And when we do talk about getting into the Doom 1 aspect and going for those 100% in Doom 1 and then 1.1, keep in mind that there is an ISO 8 requirement. So these first 2 sections do require green 4. So essentially ISO 8 level 4, so green 4. And then the last 3 sections are actually going to require green 5. So that is something to keep in mind. So these are things definitely to be working towards. Obviously, you can't get to blue 1 until you get to green 5. So obviously, Doom characters you're taking, take them up accordingly. So what I want to talk about now is just kind of the best way to go about choosing which characters to bring up, because obviously in-game there are, I think we're probably up to hundreds of characters at this point. There's lots of characters, and, we can kind of scroll. Sorry for the lag, but we can scroll through the roster, and there is an insane amount of characters. You'll notice, even with my excess of blue ISOs, I don't have a lot of my characters at even blue 1. It's primarily just my raid team and my arena teams. And I'm just kind of saving that as new characters come out, and so on and so forth. So one thing I want to kind of talk about is the way I like to organize it, and this necessarily might not work for everyone. Me personally, I don't like a lot of clutter on my kind of front screen, so the characters that I have favorited are typically either characters I'm currently working on, either with gear, I'm farming their character shards, or I'm farming an ISO 8 off of them. So you'll notice here, my favorites, I only have 5 characters, and these are all characters I currently farm. But when I was back more in the Doom 2 prep and kind of prepping my raid characters, what I really liked is having kind of a little subcategory that didn't kind of conflict with my farming or just with all of my characters in general. So what I would do is there's actually a secondary favorite that isn't technically a favorite, but it kind of functions that way. And that's this verse battle tab right over here. So if you actually verse favorite someone, it actually creates a whole separate little filter. And if you click over here, and if you click verse battle favorites, what you're going to see for me personally is characters that I'm actually working on towards Dark Dimension 5. But what I was doing was I had these verse battle favorites as my Doom characters. Now, disregard the Young Avengers. They're here for a whole other reason, which I'm not going to get into in this video. But by doing the verse battle tab, you're able to kind of filter out and only see those characters that are in your verse battle favorites. And what I would highly suggest is putting in your bio team, putting in your skill team, Mystic, Tech, and Mutant. And that way you can kind of work on them and not have the clutter. So yeah, personally, I like that better. That might not necessarily bother everyone, but I try to keep things as organized as possible. So when we are talking about who do you take to blue 1 first, and when I say blue 1, again, that is basically just this first little part of the blue ISO. So if you look over here, this is kind of what I'm referring to as blue 1. T2, level 1, blue 1 as I've been calling it. Who do you choose to work on first? Obviously there are 5 different raid teams. Where do you go? And what I would highly encourage, and not demand, but what I would highly encourage is go in the order of your raid. So there are 2 sides to the Doom raids. There's a left side, there's a right side. And basically they're just mirrors of each other, just a bit of a reverse mirror. But if we're looking over here, the left side, if you are on the left side of the Doom raid, it's going to go bio, next is going to be skill. Tech is always going to be the middle section. It's kind of the dividing point. And then we go on into Mystic and Mutant. And on the opposite side, so if you're on the right-hand side of the Doom raid, it's going to start with Mutant. It's then going to get followed up with Mystic. Again, Tech is in the middle. Then we've got skill and bio. So what I would highly encourage is if you're on the left side of the Doom Raid, I feel like your order you should go is bio, skill, tech, mystic, mutant. And then reverse, if you're on the right hand side, I would suggest you go mutant, mystic, tech, skill, bio. And, you know, there's certainly, if y'all are interested, we can certainly talk teams. There are some obviously clear winners. For bio, honestly, the easiest way you can go, even at lower star levels, is going to be your web warriors. Truthfully, at the Doom 2.0 level, the level my web warriors are currently at, I can actually auto the nodes with no problems. I don't have to select targets, nothing. I can literally slap auto, walk away, and we're good to go. So I'd highly encourage, if you haven't already started working on your web warriors, to work on those web warriors. Next section, a little not so cookie cutter team, is going to be skill. And I'm basically doing this from the perspective of the left side, but the same stuff does apply. So the kind of clear, easy, breezy, no-brainer choices is going to be Secret Avengers. So you've got Cap Sam, you've got Sharon Carter, you've got Maria Hill. Bringing also to the table is Kestrel and Shang-Chi. Kestrel goes without saying, and I think Shang-Chi does also. He's got his turn meter rewind, and this team honestly can walk through the skill section. Tech gets a little bit more complicated, and while there isn't really a for sure tech team, there are some standout tech characters. I'd say you kind of have your S tier tech characters, and then A tier, and then maybe even B tier. If we were looking, actually, I should have done this from the get-go. Just look at my raid teams. If we are looking at tech, with Kale, I go in with two different teams. So basically, my first team that I do go in with is this one up top, and this is basically kind of, it gets through the first two nodes for me. So we've got the kind of powerhouses of Kestrel and Doom, and then I would classify those as S-tier characters, and then kind of my A-tier character is probably going to be Lady Deathstrike. She's a really strong tech character. And then follow that up by kind of my B characters, which I would classify as Dr. Octopus and Shuri. Dr. Octopus maybe can kind of teeter onto the A tier. But anyway, the boss node, I then kind of follow up with a kind of Ravager, I guess, hybrid. I bring in Star-Lord T'Challa, Ravager Stitcher, Doom, Deathstrike, and Kestrel, and that normally is able to take out the boss node. Tech characters, at the lower levels, you probably will need to sub out your A and B characters for each node if you're not healing. Until we kind of get to the point where we're pushing back in Doom 2.0, I would probably say the Alliance philosophy going forward is we will tag team the tech section. Basically, everyone goes down one tech lane, and it makes it a lot easier. The next team on our list is going to be Mystic, and without a doubt, New Warriors with Deathpool, Dagger, and Cloak are phenomenal. You throw in the two Eternals, and again, it's another team that is capable of autoing it. Right now, Mutants, last section. Axemen, kind of, again, it's the only option. I'm curious to see actually how Gambit slots into this team. I actually think Gambit might be a substitute for Kitty Pryde, so we'll kind of see how that works. For now, though, the main, at least ones you need to work on for Axemen are going to be Bishop, Beast, and Jubilee. Those are kind of the pillars of the Axemen, if you will. But anyway, so those are the teams that I would kind of encourage you to take a look at and possibly work on building. Now, you've got your team figured out. You know which team you're going to take up first. How do you go about this? So if you go in the supply section over here, you will tab on over to the ISO 8 tab. And if you go on over to your orbs, let's just open these real fast so we don't have the notifications. All right, so you will see that there are, I believe it's 5. Okay, so you have 5 basically subcategories. So you've got support, you've got protector, you've got controller, you've got brawler, you've got blaster. And basically this is going to go into the character's trait. So you have characters that are blasters, protectors, so on and so forth. What you're going to want to do is when you open these orbs, you basically get a random set of ISO 8. So in the center pillar, you will always get one of these 5 blaster pieces in this blaster orb. Now, in order to take someone to blue 1, you will need 1 of each of these, equip them to your character, and you will then be able to go up to blue 1. In your left pillar, you are going to get a random piece of blue ISO gear. Basically the remaining traits. So you've got brawler, you've got support, you've got protector, you've got controller, the rest of brawler, and the rest of support. So basically everything that is not the trait, you'll get 1 of in the left column. Your center column will always grant you 2 pieces. It'll be the same piece of one of the random ones. In your right pillar is where the real bottleneck is, and you're going to get these ions. And you'll notice you get 15,000 ions per orb, which sounds like a lot, but it's actually really not. So when you're looking at a character, we'll pull up someone real quick. Let's see. Let's pull up Wasp, because Wasp we can actually just kind of show. So, you know, you basically upgrade, so you're ready to take a character to blue 1. What all does that entail? So if you look over here, you would have to equip these crystals, which that's fine, that doesn't require any additional ions. But once you equip all of these crystals, 1 of each, it'll then take you 40,000 ions to take a character to blue 1, which, you know, may not sound like a lot. It's not for level 1, but when you then get to level 2, it's going to cost 2,500 ions per slot to take them up to the blue 2 crystal. So, you know, we've got 5,000, 5,000, and 2,500. So that's 1,250 for that. And then to take the character to actual blue 2, it's going to cost 80,000 ions. So right off the bat, we're at 120,000 ions. And then if we're talking blue 3, it's going to take 20k per slot. So again, it'll be another additional 100k in ions. And then it's going to cost 150,000 ions to actually take a character to blue 3. So in total, if you're taking a character literally from 0 to blue 3, it's going to cost roughly about 370,000 ions. So that's where the ions can kind of become a shortage. So what I would highly encourage is, as you are leveling up characters, to kind of do it gradually. And, you know, it might be tempting to take, you know, your first team from blue 1 all the way to blue 3. But think about that. That is 370,000 ions times 5 characters. I'm not doing the math, but, you know, that is what? That's roughly 1.5 million ions, give or take, and you're only getting 15,000 per orb. And on average, you'll be getting 7 orbs a day. You know, that's a lot of orbs. So what I would suggest is do something very gradually, and there's honestly, you do get a lot of benefit from taking a character to blue 3. However, the goal should be just kind of getting yourself raid ready. So what I would suggest, you know, take your bio team. I normally kind of go for kind of the kingpins or the pillars of a team, and I do them first. But again, there's really, with this, it doesn't really matter as much for the blue 1 aspect. But basically take all of your, you know, web warriors, for example, to blue 1. Once they're all blue 1, you can go on up to your skill team. You can then do your tech team. You can then do mystics, and then you can do mutants. And obviously the reverse. You could do Mutants, Mystic, blah, 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 blah. Once you get everyone to Blue 1, and you're able to kind of fully participate in the Doom 2 raids, then I would say you can go back and start taking characters to Blue 2 and Blue 3, etc. Like I said, eventually you're going to get to the point where you do have an excess of Blue ISO 8 orbs, where, you know, looking over here at Kale, I have 134 orbs, so basically, as new characters come out, I am able to right away kind of take them right up to Blue 3. And that's just because I've got my Doom Raid team where I want them, and, you know, it obviously took a lot of farming, but you'll get there. And, you know, if I needed to open these orbs right now, I mean, I can get roughly about 2 million ions, so definitely more than enough to take up a full team if I needed to, and I was able to do that with my Darkhold team, because I do have this stockpile built up. So what I would suggest is, you know, again, getting that Doom, your raid teams taken care of first is the priority. Getting them to Blue 3 is going to make your Doom raiding a lot easier. And then once you have that accomplished, then you kind of have more liberty to kind of spend them where you like. And the next place I would suggest spending them would be your arena team. And, you know, currently the arena meta is the Darkhold team. So you'll see over here, you know, my Darkhold team is all Blue 3. So that's just something to think about. Now, obviously, to get someone to Blue 1, they need to be at Green 5. So something else to look at is if your character is not currently capable of going to ISO 8 level 5, this first green tier, you definitely want to farm that first. And that's something you can be doing. Get them to Green 5, and then you can take characters to Blue 1. Obviously, once you get someone to Green 5, it also makes them fully Doom 1 viable, and that is something to be considering if we will be pushing in roughly about a week. So that's about it for kind of a little ISO Blue tutorial. If y'all have any additional questions, feel free to let me know on Discord. For those new to the channel, if you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe. I want to thank you so much for watching. Hope everyone is having a good week. Stay safe and take it easy.